The idea of binaural sounds is being used in sound work. Although it's very hard to actually create the binaural sound because it's linked to receiving two different sounds, one in each ear, and we can use this idea of difference in frequency to help people to relax. Now, let me explain. This may sound all like abracadabra, so let me explain why we would want to use this. Then this brings us to brain waves and frequencies. There are different brain waves. So we have the gamma, beta, alpha, theta, and delta, and every brain wave has a corresponding frequency and a specific quality. So that means that gamma frequency is the quality of concentration, of flow. We're really into something. Then we have the beta, which is really our active state. So we don't really have to do anything. Usually we are in beta state. Then we have alpha, which is the start of relaxation, where we start to become calm. It's light meditation. Then we have theta, which is matched to the frequency of 4 to 8 hertz, which is linked to deep relaxation, focusing inward. And this is a state where we have access to imagery and intuition. And then we have the delta state, which is linked to our sleep state. Now, when we use binaural sounds in our soundscape, usually we focus on the theta brain wave, which is between 4 and 8 hertz. Now, 4 and 8 hertz, 4, 6, 7, 8 hertz, that is a frequency that we can't consciously hear. So this is a frequency that, we create in a different way. So this brings us to the definition of binaural sounds, where we say that binaural sound is an auditory illusion. So it's not really a sound that is there, but it is an illusion created because we're using two tones with a different frequency, and every tone is played into each ear. So we have one tone here and one tone here. And then what happens is that our brain kind of creates a third tone that is matching the difference between the frequencies of the tones that's already there. So you create the third tone, and this also has a pulsating quality. So it feels like wah, 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 wah. Now, when we look at this in a way, so here we have a person. In one ear, you could listen to 100 hertz, and in the other ear, you could be receiving something with 104 hertz. So these two different frequencies have a difference of 4 hertz. So what the brain does is it creates this this third tone as a result of the difference between the two, and that is 4 hertz, which is in the range of 4 to 8 hertz, which is linked to the theta brain waves. Now, when we talk about binaural sound, the whole idea is that you have two different sounds coming in each ear. Obviously, when you are having people lying down in a sound bath, you will not be able to have this two different sounds happening with every individual in your sound bath. Although you can use this idea, for instance, if you have two gongs and you can measure their frequency, and you have two gongs opposite each other, and then you can recreate this idea of an extra sound wave coming through, which is the difference between the one gong and the other gong. A way that you can experience it yourself is if you use two tuning forks. So here I have a tuning fork a planetary tuning fork, which is a Pluto tuning fork of 140.64 hertz. That is one tuning fork. Then the other tuning fork is a Saturn tuning fork of 147.86. So the difference between these two is approximately 7 hertz. And if I use these tuning forks and I hold them before each ear, so I have one ear I have the Saturn, and the other ear I have the Pluto, and they come into the range of 4 to 8 hertz, the difference. And that means that I experience this new sound coming through as a wah 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 sound, which is the binaural sound. So this is true binaural, one ear, the other ear. But you can recreate this in your sound bath by, for instance, as I said, using two gongs opposite of each other. One thing to note is that these binaural sounds can have a very intense effect on people. So I would use this lightly, not too intense, not for too long a period. People can also start to experience a headache because they're experiencing something that is very very, very intense on their system. So don't go all the way. So it's a fascinating thing in sound, and for us as sound practitioners, it's very cool to experiment. But be mindful of your audience, that it can be very intense. Also, if we go back to the chart, you can see that really this area of 4 to 8 hertz is very desirable. But if you have a distance that is bigger than that, then you are moving towards the beta, which is actually activating. So that keeps people really from relaxing. So yes, this wah 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 sound can come, but instead of helping people to relax, then it can actually have the opposite effect where people are more activated. So it's interesting to know how it works, and how you can create this third sound. As mentioned, it's like an illusion because the sound is not really there. It's created because of these two separate sounds happening in each ear. But be mindful of how you use this in your sound practice.